Have you ever felt like a small boat adrift in the vast ocean of social connections, yearning for an anchor in the hearts and minds of those around you? In this digital whirlwind, where thousands of voices compete for attention, it's easy to feel overlooked, unnoticed, even unappreciated. Yet what if there existed an ageless philosophy, a compass, if you will, that could guide you to become not just another face in the crowd, but someone genuinely valued by others? Welcome to a journey where ancient wisdom meets the demands of modern life. Today we explore the Stoic art of making yourself a priority in others' lives, not through manipulation or charm, but through the profound, authentic principles of Stoicism. These insights serve as your guide, helping you foster relationships rooted in respect and genuine connection, grounded in the timeless wisdom of the Stoic philosophers. One seeking balance, a Stoic perspective on self-worth in relationships. In the intricate web of social connections, we often encounter the unsettling realization that the importance we place on others may not be reciprocated. This feeling of being undervalued stirs something deep within us, compelling us to reevaluate our sense of self-worth. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy rich in practical wisdom, offers us a guiding light when it comes to navigating these challenging dynamics. The teachings of Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus emphasize the power of inner control over external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." His words reflect the Stoic conviction that true worth and contentment do not stem from external validation, but from within. When we face the imbalance in relationships, Stoicism encourages us to detach from external judgments and anchor ourselves in principles of inner strength and resilience. In our interactions, especially those that make us feel less valued, it's all too easy to lose sight of our own worth, swayed by the perception of others. Yet the Stoics remind us that such perceptions lie beyond our control. What truly matters is how we perceive ourselves and adhere to our own values. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher and statesman, observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. This insight is particularly relevant when addressing feelings of being undervalued. Often the pain we feel from unbalanced relationships is magnified by our own internal narrative, stories we tell ourselves about our worth relative to others. Stoicism teaches that we should carefully scrutinize these narratives, understanding that our value is intrinsic and should not waver based on the approval or disinterest of those around us. One of the core tenets of Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, the notion that while we cannot govern others' thoughts, actions, or perceptions, we do hold the power over our own reactions and decisions. Epictetus, another foundational Stoic thinker, emphasized this distinction, teaching us to focus our energies on aspects within our control. By applying this principle, we can cultivate a mindset where our self-worth is no longer tethered to how others perceive us. Instead, we root our confidence in the values and principles we uphold, shifting our perspective away from external validation. In practicing Stoicism, we also learn the importance of boundaries, particularly when dealing with relationships that seem to take more than they give. The Stoic approach encourages us to approach these relationships with compassion, yet also with a clear understanding of our own limits. While Stoicism promotes virtues such as kindness and empathy, it also reminds us that being overly accommodating, at the cost of our well-being, is not virtuous but self-defeating. Epictetus once advised, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In this context, the wisdom lies in prioritizing our values, even if doing so makes us appear less agreeable or flexible to others. The beauty of Stoicism lies in its practicality. Rather than prescribing rigid rules, It offers guiding principles that can be applied across the spectrum of human experience. In navigating feelings of being undervalued, these principles can help us shift our focus inward, fostering a grounded sense of self-worth that is unaffected by external fluctuations. Stoicism reminds us that we are not defined by how others see us, but by how we choose to see ourselves. Engaging with these Stoic teachings also involves a commitment to self-reflection. Marcus Aurelius, in his nightly reflections, would review his thoughts and actions, assessing where he had strayed from his principles and where he had stayed true. Adopting a similar practice can help us gain clarity in relationships where we feel undervalued. Are we compromising our values in the hopes of gaining approval? Are we tolerating behavior that diminishes our sense of self-worth? By honestly evaluating our role in these dynamics, we can make choices that align with our deeper principles. For the Stoics, self-respect was not a secondary concern but a cornerstone of a virtuous life. To lead with integrity, they argued, one must first respect oneself, refusing to be swayed by the inconsistent and often fleeting judgments of others. In this way, Stoicism teaches us to cultivate a sense of autonomy in our relationships. Marcus Aurelius put it succinctly: waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one in the context of feeling undervalued. This means embodying our values rather than seeking validation. Rather than trying to change how others perceive us, we should focus on living in alignment with our principles, recognizing that self-worth is built from within. As we navigate these emotional landscapes, Stoicism offers a gentle but firm reminder that our worth is independent of the praise or disregard we receive from others. The goal is not to seek constant validation, but to build a sense of self-assurance rooted in principles. By following these teachings, we learn to value our own worth without relying on the fluctuating opinions of those around us. In this way, Stoicism is more than a philosophy, it becomes a way of life. It invites us to redefine what it means to be valued, suggesting that true contentment lies not in others' recognition, but in our fidelity to our own values. Through the wisdom of the Stoics, we can learn to find balance in our relationships, drawing strength from within rather than seeking it from those around us. To building authentic connections, Stoic wisdom on valued relationships. When we seek to deepen our role in the lives of others, Stoic philosophy offers a wellspring of guidance, reminding us to look beyond superficial tactics. True value in relationships stems not from manipulation but from a foundation built on sincerity and understanding. Stoicism, along with complementary philosophies, encourages a mindset centered on the worth of genuine, meaningful connections rather than transient influences. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman philosopher king, underscored the virtue of authenticity in all interactions, advising, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. This insight highlights that meaningful relationships are built on actions that speak louder than intentions or discussions. In the Stoic view, the focus is on demonstrating integrity and reliability, leading by example rather than words, and allowing character to resonate in a way that fosters true bonds with others. Seneca, a fellow Stoic, reminds us in his works that the fleeting nature of time should sharpen our focus on what truly matters. Every shared moment, every sincere gesture, every act of support is a fleeting but powerful opportunity to cultivate mutual appreciation and respect. He emphasizes the finite quality of life, urging us to invest time wisely and create memorable experiences with those who matter. In these exchanges, there is a subtle but profound exchange of value, a recognition that time shared with others is time well spent. These teachings serve as a guide for building relationships that transcend superficial connections. By approaching others with sincerity and a willingness to engage genuinely, we build relationships that are both robust and enriching. The emphasis lies on mutual growth and support, where both parties uplift each other, fostering a space for authentic communication and understanding. 3. Self-worth and relationships, a Stoic perspective. Stoicism teaches us to examine our own values carefully, particularly in how these values manifest in relationships with others. The Stoic approach encourages us to turn inward, reflecting on our self-worth in ways that are independent of external validation. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and a guiding voice in Stoic philosophy, often spoke of self-reflection as essential to understanding our true value within our relationships. Rather than seeking affirmation from others, he advocated for a profound self-awareness, a clarity that can reveal whether our relationships genuinely align with our values or merely serve as temporary sources of external approval. Epictetus, another central figure in Stoicism, highlights the concept of control as crucial in our assessment of self-worth. He reminds us that while external circumstances may be beyond our control, our reactions and perceptions remain entirely within our grasp. In relationships, this principle serves as a grounding force, one that allows us to recognize our own value without relying on others to validate it. By understanding that our self-worth is not determined by external praise or rejection, we liberate ourselves from the turmoil of seeking constant approval, gaining the power to decide how we value ourselves in a way that is both enduring and independent. Stoic philosophy thus frames our self-worth as an intrinsic quality, one that exists regardless of others' opinions. This is not to say that relationships should lack warmth or intimacy, but rather that a Stoic approach to relationships advocates for a balance. Relationships that thrive are those in which individuals bring their full selves, fortified by an understanding of their own values and self-worth, without requiring the other person to confirm their importance or adequacy. Balanced perspective frees us from the insecurities that can often lead to unhealthy dependency on others for a sense of self. Through self-reflection and awareness of our internal locus of control, we begin to cultivate a sense of self-worth that remains resilient in the face of external changes. By grounding our sense of value within ourselves, we can engage in relationships that are mutually supportive, rather than ones that hinge on a constant need for validation. Embracing Stoicism means recognizing that our worth is a personal truth, not a variable dependent on others' perceptions. This principle encourages relationships built on shared respect rather than on the fragile foundation of one-sided validation. All practical esteem Stoic wisdom for building value in relationships. In the pursuit of feeling valued in relationships, Stoicism offers a grounded, practical approach that focuses on managing one's presence and availability. Rather than trying to control external outcomes, the Stoics teach us to center our attention on what truly lies within our grasp. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, offers profound insight into this approach, emphasizing time as one of our most controllable and precious resources in an unpredictable world. How we manage this time, how we choose to invest it, and in whom is instrumental in cultivating our value in the eyes of others. The Stoic view encourages a healthy detachment from the need for constant validation. Instead of seeking appreciation by overextending ourselves or attempting to be perpetually available, we aim to refine how we present ourselves. Through an intentional allocation of time, we communicate a sense of self-respect and boundary awareness that speaks volumes about our values and priorities. Aurelius' perspective implies that when we use our time purposefully, not only do we become more intentional in our actions, but we also inspire respect in others. This philosophy discourages the exhausting pursuit of approval and encourages self-possession. When we remain mindful of how and with whom we spend our time, we naturally project a sense of value. This approach is far from indifference. It reflects a balanced, Stoic composure that neither clings to the need for appreciation nor dismisses it entirely. By deliberately moderating our availability, we create a space in which respect and genuine connection can grow, unforced and mutually enriching. In practical terms, Stoicism calls for self-discipline in the way we allocate our presence. It suggests we should assess whether our interactions are balanced and reciprocal, rather than slipping into cycles where we give too much of ourselves, often to the detriment of our own well-being. Aurelius understood that in focusing on our internal locus of control, we not only honor ourselves but also invite others to engage with us on more meaningful, respectful terms. Stoic principles are not about withdrawing from relationships, rather, they are about approaching them with a mindful reserve. Managing one's availability in this way creates a sense of balance, allowing us to engage deeply with others without compromising our inner resources. In following this path, we honor our time as a finite, valuable asset, one that can significantly shape how others perceive and interact with us. 5. Cultivating patience, the Stoic path to inner strength. In Stoic philosophy, patience is more than passive waiting. It's an essential skill that allows us to navigate life's challenges with a sense of mastery over our own reactions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who championed Stoicism, reminds us that true peace is found within and should never be bound to the ebb and flow of external events. For Marcus, inner peace is something to cultivate from within, regardless of the world's storms or trials. To the Stoics, patience serves as a defense against life's disruptions and disappointments, but it's a far cry from mere forbearance. Seneca, another profound Stoic thinker, saw patience as a conscious, self-determined act of holding one's dignity and grace in the face of adversity. For him, patience was the act of reigning over one's emotions, controlling impulsive reactions, and not allowing external circumstances to dictate inner calm. To practice patience, then, is not to stand by passively, but to strengthen the power of choice over how we respond. Stoicism teaches that patience is a dynamic quality. When you cultivate patience, you're actively training the mind to become less affected by the turmoil and chaos that often accompany life's hardships. Life constantly presents obstacles, unexpected delays, people who test our limits, and challenges that seem unjust or unfair. Patience allows us to confront each of these with a calm, measured response. It's the choice to respond with a sense of acceptance rather than frustration, aligning with the Stoic ideal of self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius believed that we shouldn't surrender our peace to events outside our control, for to do so would be to place our happiness in the hands of fate. Instead, he advocated for anchoring our tranquility within, relying not on the whims of others or the nature of circumstances, but on our own cultivated equanimity. In practicing patience, we're less likely to fall into the trap of anger or resentment, two emotions that the Stoics understood as disruptive forces that cloud judgment and disrupt inner peace. Patience, according to Stoicism, is an exercise in cultivating a steady mind. When we find ourselves in difficult situations, we often feel an immediate urge to react, to push back against what we deem unfair or unbearable. Yet the Stoic approach asks us to pause, assess, and consider. Rather than allowing frustration to take the lead, patience becomes an opportunity to exercise choice, teaching us to hold back from impulsive reactions and to focus on what is within our control. This approach builds resilience and reinforces the Stoic idea that we are the masters of our own minds and responses. Seneca's view of patience as an expression of dignity emphasizes that enduring hardships gracefully is not an act of weakness, but one of profound strength. To be patient is to refrain from needless confrontation or self-pity, and instead to rise above the discomforts that often fuel irritation. He believed that this form of patience is an active stance, a way of maintaining our composure without resorting to bitterness. Patience, then, is about making a choice to preserve our integrity in any situation, particularly when faced with difficulties that could otherwise disrupt our balance. When we practice patience in the Stoic sense, we acknowledge that our reactions are within our control, even if external events are not. This understanding helps us to maintain a sense of personal power and freedom, for we're no longer at the mercy of every challenging circumstance or irritating individual. We gain the ability to choose how to respond rather than feeling compelled to react impulsively. In doing so, we live in harmony with the Stoic aim to cultivate a life guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and indeed patience. Cultivating patience does not mean allowing others to take advantage of us or accepting every difficulty without question. Instead, it means fostering an attitude of resilience, of facing life's challenges with calm determination rather than resistance. Patience becomes a tool for self-improvement, a means to maintain our focus on what truly matters without losing ourselves in fleeting frustrations. By embracing patience, we can engage with life in a more meaningful way, experiencing each moment with a clear mind and a centered spirit. Practicing patience allows us to develop inner strength and stability that no external force can easily shake. It's a journey of self-mastery, where we choose to meet life's challenges not with anger or resentment, but with a steady, composed mind that remains focused on what lies within our control. Through patience, we realize that we can meet adversity with dignity, confidence, and unshakable inner peace. 6. Prioritizing yourself, the Stoic path to self-respect. In Stoicism, placing yourself first isn't simply advisable. It's a fundamental component of living a balanced life. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you don't respect yourself, nobody else will. This statement isn't an invitation to dismiss others, but a call to recognize the intrinsic worth of your own time, energy, and well-being. By understanding and honoring your limits, you set a standard for how you engage with others and communicate a clear message. Your needs and boundaries deserve as much respect as anyone else's. Prioritizing yourself within a Stoic framework doesn't mean disregarding the needs of those around you. Instead, it involves a conscious recognition of the mutual respect that should underpin any relationship. When you choose to value your own time and well-being, you model behavior that invites others to do the same, not just toward you, but in their own lives. Stoicism teaches us that boundaries are vital, not barriers, but necessary markers for self-care and resilience. For many, the idea of saying no brings discomfort. This is partly because of the societal pressure to be agreeable and accommodating. However, Stoics argue that declining a request, when it preserves our well-being, isn't a sign of selfishness, it's an affirmation of self-respect. By establishing these boundaries, you send a clear message your resources are valuable. This stance aligns with the Stoic principle of oikeiosis, the natural inclination to protect and nurture our own development. What does it look like to prioritize yourself in practical terms? It starts with a pause, a deliberate moment to evaluate whether a given commitment aligns with your values or serves your overall well-being. For instance, if a friend asks for your help on a project that demands time you don't have, politely declining is not a rejection of your friend, but a choice to preserve your energy for what genuinely matters. In Marcus Aurelius' words, we're reminded that our life is what our thoughts make it. By cultivating thoughts that affirm our self-worth, we lay the groundwork for choices that reflect and sustain it. When we fail to prioritize ourselves, we risk burning out and even fostering resentment in our relationships. Giving consistently without reciprocation drains us, leaving little for ourselves or others. Recognizing your needs and asserting them is not about erecting barriers, but maintaining healthy, reciprocal connections that enrich your life rather than deplete it. This approach echoes Epictetus' teaching on control, where he advises us to focus on the aspects of life within our power, our choices, our reactions, and our well-being. Prioritizing yourself can also serve as a tool for introspection. Each no offers an opportunity to reflect on why a particular commitment doesn't serve you. In Stoicism, this aligns with the idea of cultivating wisdom through self-reflection and observation. Self-prioritization, in essence, is a practical expression of wisdom, the virtue that Stoics hold in the highest regard. By setting these limits, you become more effective in helping others because you act from a place of balance and purpose rather than obligation or fatigue. This journey of prioritization is ongoing, much like Stoic practice itself. It requires us to evaluate our commitments continuously and to recognize when it's time to step back. It's an exercise in mindfulness, asking us to stay attuned to our values and needs. When we respect our own boundaries, we uphold a principle that Stoics return to frequently: we are responsible for our own happiness. This isn't a call for detachment, but for a mindful engagement with the world that respects both our limits and our potential. In essence, prioritizing yourself within a Stoic framework is an act of respect, not only for yourself, but for the principles that guide your life. You embody the Stoic commitment to live in harmony with nature, both your own and that of others. And by doing so, you inspire those around you to appreciate the worth of their own time and energy, cultivating relationships that are balanced, meaningful, and deeply respectful. 7. The irreplaceable currency of time: Stoic wisdom on living purposefully. Seneca offers timeless insights into the significance of time, a resource that once lost can never be reclaimed. He urges us to think of time not merely as something we possess, but as something infinitely more precious, urging a mindful approach to its use. To him, time is like an irreplaceable currency, one that we must spend wisely and with intention, investing it in pursuits that hold real value. Time, in Seneca's perspective, is not a commodity to squander, it is a sacred asset. He challenges us to think deeply about how and where we spend it, suggesting that if we were to treat time with the same care as we do wealth, we would likely live very differently. Each passing moment, Seneca warns, is irretrievable, a loss that can never be compensated by any other means. The Stoic's view is sharp and unyielding: time is always slipping away, and to waste it thoughtlessly is to lose a part of one's very life. Seneca's approach is not a call to fill every moment with work or busyness, but rather a reminder to invest in activities that enrich us. He sees time as something that demands purpose. If we are not careful, he argues, we risk falling into a passive existence, allowing days and years to drift by without direction or intention. This thoughtless drift is, to Seneca, a form of death, a gradual erosion of one's life. For Seneca, living purposefully also means prioritizing genuine connections with others. Interacting sincerely with the people around us becomes part of his philosophy on time management. Superficial relationships or casual acquaintanceships, he suggests, can often be distractions that divert us from deeper, more meaningful bonds. He advocates for a kind of selective association, where our time and energy are given to relationships that genuinely contribute to our personal growth and understanding. This Stoic perspective on time does not negate leisure; instead, it redefines it. Time well spent, in Seneca's terms, could be time spent in reflection, study, or the company of friends who inspire growth. It could be quiet moments of contemplation, an opportunity to align ourselves with our values, or a period dedicated to pursuing knowledge. The Stoic vision of productivity goes beyond the material, seeing worth in experiences that may not yield immediate, tangible outcomes, but hold long-term significance for our character and wisdom. Moreover, Seneca acknowledges that our time is not entirely within our control. Circumstances, fate, and the unforeseen events of life often take their share. However, he believes that whatever time remains in our hands should be guarded with vigilance. The practice of actively choosing how to spend time and doing so in a way that aligns with our personal values is, in itself, an act of autonomy, a small but profound exercise in Stoic freedom. In a world filled with distractions and obligations, Seneca's view is challenging, almost radical. He invites us to re-examine not just what we do, but why we do it. Are we, he asks implicitly, living for ourselves, or are we living according to the demands and desires of others? By choosing meaningful activities, by prioritizing genuine connections, and by exercising a deliberate, thoughtful approach to each day, we might find a life richer than any that could be bought with material wealth. The lesson here is not simply to avoid wasting time, but to honor it, recognizing each hour as part of the finite resource it is. Seneca's words serve as a powerful reminder that our time, if used wisely, can be a pathway to a fuller, more intentional life.